Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be doing a wear test of a brand new foundation I kind of stumbled across when I was shopping online at Ulta. I haven't heard anything about this product at all. I know nothing about it aside from what I've learned from reading the website, so I'm very excited to put this to the test and see how it works. Talking about the new Covergirl Full Spectrum Matte Ambition All Day Shine Free Foundation. As an oily skin girl, I definitely feel like I'm one to be able to tell you whether or not a foundation will keep you shine free all day. So we're going to be doing like a first impression of this. I have not used this at all before. We're gonna see how it applies. We're gonna see how it wears. I'm gonna be leaving this makeup on all day. I'm going out later, so hopefully it won't end up making me look like a hot mess. Obviously, I'm going to need to test this out more days than just today to see how it works, the different primers, different powders, different conditions. So this is really just kind of a first thoughts, giving you guys some information, especially because this is brand new, if you're wondering whether or not you should pick it up. So we'll see. We'll see how it works for me today. On that note, if you're new here and you're not subscribed, make sure you click the button if you want to stay in the loop for when my future videos go live, especially my future updates. I also usually share more of my in-depth thoughts during my monthly beauty report series at the end of every month, kind of give you updates on everything that I've been testing and trying, so I'm sure we'll hear more in the future about that. But in the meantime, I'm gonna rewind the clock, scoot you guys in, and I'm gonna show you how this foundation applies. So I'm gonna start out by priming my skin. I'm gonna use my COOLA Daydream Mineral Primer. This is what I've been using most days lately because it has SPF and it adds a really nice smooth base for my foundation to apply on top of. So I want to treat my face the same way I would, if I was using any other foundation. And this is the product we're going to be testing out today. This is the new Full Spectrum by Covergirl Matte Ambition Foundation. This is what the packaging looks like. We got a nice little pump on here, which is very exciting. And in general, I feel like this kind of fits within Covergirl's new sort of sleeker vibe. Actually, what's funny is if you look at this on the Ulta website, you may think it's a whole separate brand because it's listed as Full Spectrum, but then when you actually click into the page, it's Full Spectrum by Covergirl. So don't be confused. I guess this is just like a new line within the Covergirl brand, but it looks pretty and kind of a little bit more chic and high-end than I'm used to seeing at the drugstore. It has a glass bottle, so I appreciate that. On the Ulta website, this retails for $11.99. It looks like they have 20 shades available. I don't know if that's the entire range or if that's just what they have at Ulta. And as far as the claims go, this says, designed to bring out your truest tones, Matte Ambition All-Day Foundation from Full Spectrum is transfer resistant, provides all-day comfort with oil-absorbing powders for a natural matte foundation finish. If you guys are relatively new to my videos, you may not know, I have pretty oily skin right now. It's the winter, so my skin is more on the combination side. The oiliness I get tends to be right around my nose, my forehead, and my chin, kind of standard T-zone. So we will see how this works for me if I get shiny throughout the day. I typically prefer a natural matte finish. I don't like things that look super flat, but I don't like to look very luminous to start because I tend to get pretty shiny all on my own. So I picked up the shade Light Golden. Hopefully it will work for me. It's always really hard to shade match online because the pictures are not necessarily representative of how the foundation's gonna look in real life, so hopefully this will not be too light on me. It looks in the bottle like it's gonna be a decent shade match, but again, sometimes appearances are deceiving. So I'm gonna do the same thing I do in all of my foundation testing videos. I will apply this with a sponge on one half of my face, gonna use my beauty blender, and then on the other half I will use a brush. I'm gonna try out this MODA Pro blend brush for that. Ooh, this has a lock, which I like. You can lock the pump so it won't accidentally squirt foundation everywhere if the cap comes off. I appreciate that. All right, texture-wise, pretty thick. It's not a runny or liquidy foundation. So I'm gonna start by dabbing this on to half of my face. Ooh, smells kind of like paint thinner. Very much reminds me of the smell of the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation. Kind of identical to that if you know what that smells like. So I'm realizing as I went back and looked at the information online and what's on the bottle, which there's nothing on the bottle information-wise about product claims, I can't find anything about whether or not this is supposed to be full coverage, medium coverage, no information. So I'm getting a nice medium coverage out of this. It's not super full, and it does have a natural finish as it promised, so I do like that. So here is what one layer is looking like with the sponge, and I feel like it went on fairly easily, blended into my skin nicely. It doesn't feel heavy, it feels pretty comfortable and light, and I feel like my skin looks like skin, which is nice. Again, it's not full coverage, it's not covering up every single little imperfection, but I don't hate that, especially for like an everyday makeup kind of product. So let's try with a brush and see how that goes. Again, I'll just dot a little bit of it on. So that blended out fairly easily with the brush. I think I might like the sponge side just like a little bit better. I think I need to add a second layer of this just to see if I can build up the coverage just a little bit. But yeah, I'm not seeing like any streak marks or brush marks with this. I feel like it blended in fairly quickly, but the coverage is, you know, it's even, but it's just not very full. So let me go in, add a little bit more, and we'll see how that looks. All right, so here's where we're at with a second layer built up on my skin. I feel like the foundation, again, applied pretty much the same with both the sponge and the brush. I think I might like the sponge side just a teeny bit more given the consistency of the foundation. But all in all, I feel like it looks pretty nice. Like the finish, again, it's a natural matte. It's not so flat and powdery. It looks like skin. With the second layer, there's a little bit more coverage, but I am still seeing around my nose especially, and where I have a few little breakouts, that they're not completely covered, so I'm definitely going to need to go in with concealer. It's still ever so slightly tacky to the touch. I'm going to let it dry down a little bit more, but it's not uncomfortable to where it doesn't feel really heavy on my skin. I think adding the second layer, I feel it a little bit more obviously than I did before, but I don't hate the way it's feeling. But the one thing, and this is actually kind of hilarious to me right now, let me scooch closer so maybe you guys can see this. It may be a little hard to tell, but the white dots are back, guys. Do you see them? They definitely are visible if I am looking in my mirror. This happened to me also with Covergirl's True Blend Matte Made Foundation. If you saw my demo wear test review of that, I will link it in the cards if you haven't. That, when I applied it, after it started to dry, it left little white dots all over my face, and I was really hoping that this would be different, and it is doing kind of the exact same thing, which is bananas. Also, I am noticing now that this has been sitting on my skin for a few minutes, it's definitely oxidizing. This color is actually, if anything, looking slightly orange, slightly dark on me, especially compared to how it looked when it first went on. And this is the shade Light Golden, and I am more of like a light medium, so I think if you are very fair, you're gonna want to be careful because you may end up looking a little Oompa Loompa like going with a regular light shade. Well, this is off to a promising start. All right, I'm gonna finish the rest of my base. I'm going to apply some concealer, gonna use the Maybelline Fit Me, figured we'd keep it drugstore, and then I'm gonna set everything down with my Cover FX Perfect Setting Powder. Again, this is something I've used 100 times before. I use it on a very regular basis. I know how it performs, so I figure if we're gonna give this foundation a fair shot, we'll use what I already know and love. Alright guys, so here is how we are looking. Everything is powdered, set, concealed. Let's take a look in the mirror and see what I think. So right now I feel like everything obviously looks very matte, but not too cakey, not too heavy. I tried to get rid of as many of the little white dots as I possibly could, but there are still a few rogue stragglers that are hanging on for dear life. So we will see how this wears and how it holds up, also how the rest of my makeup applies on top of this. So I'm gonna go finish my face and I will meet you guys back in a few. Okay, and we're back. I have my full face of makeup on. If you want to see everything else I used on my face, I actually filmed a whole separate video testing and trying a bunch of these products. It is a makeup playtime video that at this point should have already gone live on my channel, so I will link it for you guys in the description box if you want to learn more about the other products that I'm wearing. But let's chat a little bit about this foundation. So here is what my skin is currently looking like. I feel like it looks nice, to be honest. I'm not getting shiny yet. I mean, it's only maybe been an hour or so since I put this on. It's not caking or bunching up in any weird places yet, so far so good. Again, I don't think this is the most full coverage foundation I've ever worn in my life, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think for every day, sometimes it's nice to have a foundation that actually looks more like skin than like you're wearing a mask of makeup. I'm still seeing some of the white dots, especially like right here around my jawline, which is infinitely annoying, but hopefully something I can overlook. Hopefully this foundation will perform well and that will make up for it. Now, something I am realizing or thinking about, and I'll be curious, maybe I'll have to do another day like a split face wear test with this and the Covergirl Matte Made Foundation, but I feel like in terms of how they apply, how they look on the skin after initial application, they are very, very similar. I'm gonna have to maybe even look into the ingredients on this versus the other Covergirl foundation to see if they're different. I'm really dubious as to whether or not this is essentially the same thing as Matte Made or if it's really a different foundation. I don't really know. So gonna have to do a little bit more investigating. In the meantime, we are going to wear test this foundation and see how it holds up for the rest of the day. Right now it is currently, what time is it? It's 11:41, says my Fitbit. So I've got plenty of things to do today. It's my friend's birthday. We're going out to some breweries and things to celebrate. Maybe I will take you guys along with me and we'll see how shiny I get, whether or not this ends up looking like a hot mess. Fingers crossed though, it'll be good. All right guys, I am back for my first check-in. It is currently 4:39 in the afternoon, so it has been, what, close to 5 hours that I have had this foundation on. So let's take a look at the situation. So I feel like right now we're not doing great. It could be worse, but it's not the best. First of all, I feel like I am getting luminous. I'm getting kind of shiny in my T-zone. My oils are definitely starting to peek through. Also, I feel like right here around my chin, it's starting to break up a bit. Also kind of doing that around my nose. So not totally loving the way this is wearing. I mean, it's not horrible, and like for the most part, I'm still looking okay. Like, I'm not feeling like, oh my god, I'm gonna go out and people are gonna look at me and be like, what's wrong with your makeup? But on a normal day, I would want to touch up my chin, I would want to touch up my nose, and I would want to blot a little bit and reduce some of the shine. But for the sake of science, we're not gonna do that. I'm gonna leave it alone and let it be, and we will check back in later, and I will let you guys know my final thoughts. All right guys, I am back for my final check-in. It is currently 10:07 at night. The sweatpants are on, my lipstick is basically gone. I'm ready to take this makeup off and get ready for bed. But before I do, I need to show you guys how this foundation is currently looking. So here I am, painfully close up for you. You can see I am pretty darn shiny right now, especially right here around my nose. I feel it too, like my skin feels kind of greasy, which is not the most pleasant. I've lost a fair amount of coverage around my chin, also around my nose. elsewhere, it's not looking too terribly bad. I feel like on my jawline and forehead, I feel like we're actually still going fairly strong, but yeah, very shiny in the nose region. So here are my final thoughts after a single day of wear testing this new foundation. I don't think this is the worst thing that I've ever tried, but I don't think that it's the best foundation either. Given the price point, I wouldn't expect it to work miracles, but it's a little bit disappointing. I think the biggest thing, honestly, for me is that this wears and looks almost identical to CoverGirl's other matte foundation, their Matte Made that they launched this year, I think earlier in the year, maybe in the springtime. So I feel a little weird about this. I kind of was hoping this would be a different, more unique formula, but it seems pretty much the same. So like I mentioned before, I'm gonna have to do a little investigating into the ingredients, see how different are the formulas, or are they truly kind of the same deal. That would be weird. I wouldn't be too down for that. I don't know why they would do that, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. I was very disappointed that this foundation also had the same little white dot problem that the other CoverGirl foundation also had. That's really strange. I mean, right now I'm not really seeing them on there. Maybe as my skin has produced oil, those little white dots have kind of soaked some of it up. I don't really know. I just kind of wish they weren't so apparent in the first place. It's just not the most flattering thing, especially if you're up close with someone. They don't really show up on camera, but if you were standing next to me in person, you would definitely see them. So long story short, I'm gonna have to continue to test this. I will have to give you guys an update once I have worn it for a few weeks, tried it out with some other primers, with some other powders to see if the wear is any different. But ultimately, I think what you're gonna get with this is you're gonna get medium coverage. I think if you're not super oily, it's gonna have a nice natural matte finish, and it will probably last you a solid 5-6 hours without starting to break apart or look too shiny. But once you get past that mark, especially if you have oily skin, it looks like it might become a little bit of a grease mess. Okay, so I finally grabbed my CoverGirl Matte Made foundation out of the drawer, and here are the ingredients lists right next to each other, and they are legit identical. I can't believe this. This is the same foundation. This guy and this guy, they are the same. And pretty much, just so you guys know, once you get to less than 1% concentration in a formula, a brand can list ingredients in any order. So basically anything after phenoxyethanol, which is the preservative, typically phenoxyethanol, like the preservative, is less than 1%. So anything after that, the order can be different. But the first ones, if you look at them, water, talc, cyclopentasiloxane, propylene glycol, dimethicone, like they're the same in the same order. So I think, guys, that this foundation and this foundation are in fact actually the same thing. So if you already have this, don't waste your money and go and buy this guy because it's the same foundation. And I'm feeling kind of dumb right now that I basically just wear tested exactly the same product, but you live and you learn, guys. You live and you learn. So on that note, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me today. I hope it was fun, helpful in some way for you to see this foundation in action and to hear my initial thoughts. If you end up trying this out as well, definitely let me know what your experience has been in the comments down below. If you have dry skin especially, does this enhance texture on your skin? Does it enhance dry patches, or do you like it? I'd be really curious to hear from the other side of the spectrum what your experience is like. If you guys enjoy these wear test type videos, give this one a thumbs up. I always really appreciate your support. And if you're not subscribed and you want to see any future updates on this product as well as anything else I'm testing out, make sure you click the button before you go. So I'm gonna go take off my makeup and I'm gonna go get ready for bed, but I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.